What is up, everyone? We are back with another episode of Shaping the Culture. So pumped for this episode. As you guys can see, we got a gang in this episode. We got everybody from men, the men in singleness and the women in singleness episode to discuss relationships. You guys wanted it, so here we are. And what we're going to do before we jump in is I'm going to give an opportunity for everyone to introduce themselves. And so, Fikr, do you want to start us off? Let us know who you are, where you're from, your relationship.
Yeah, my name is Fikr. I'm from Pennsylvania, and I am single.
Let us know.
Yeah, this is your boy Sam, all the way from Minnesota, St. Paul, gang. Your boy is single.
Ready to mingle.
Ready to mingle.
Awesome. And then, Zayma, you want to start us off?
Sure. I'm Zayma from Maryland, and I am in a relationship.
Cool. I'm Yordi from San Diego in Maryland, and I am actually in a relationship.
What's up, guys? I'm Mekli. I'm from Silver Spring, Maryland, and I am single.
My name is Hanu. I am from Silver Spring, Maryland, and I am single as well. Not ready to mingle.
She said, no DMs, please. So my name is Ebenezer, as you guys know, and I am single and ready to have this conversation. So I've been really just enjoying this series, a lot of great feedback and engagement. Thankful for everyone who reached out and shared your thoughts and shared what you guys wanted to hear next. And one of the things that we heard back was you guys wanted us to discuss what it looks like to be in friendship with opposite sex. And what does pursuit look like? I know historically speaking, men do the pursuing, culture is shifting. And we're seeing it being more acceptable for women to pursue. So some of y'all ladies reached out and asked if that's something that should take place, what our takes are on that. I know that's like a big topic, and we have different perspectives, I'm sure, represented here. And so we want to tackle those two major topics in our time here together. And so we'll start off this way. Maybe we'll start off talking about guys and girls being friends, because that's a fun one. And I know for our DC gang, every time I'm in the DMV area, without fail, that conversation gets brought up. So I know there's a lot of insight and perspective there. But yeah, whoever wants to open us up, what do you guys think about that? How do you do you guys think it's wise for men and women to be friends? Do you think it's wise for men and women to be close friends? What does that look like? How does that work in your life?
I think you'd have to define what a friend and a close friend are first before having that conversation. Because that, if you leave that open to interpretation, that could be a real sticky situation.
Absolutely. So just basic,
We're on the same page about. Yeah.
So I think that I don't see a problem with it personally. I feel like men and women can be friends. And I feel like if I have women who are my friends, then why can't I have, as long as there's boundaries set, especially if you're in a relationship, obviously things change. And like some of my closest guy friends, like my best friend is a guy, but obviously if I'm in a relationship or if he's in a relationship, there's certain boundaries that we never really cross boundaries, but I won't call, I won't call him after a certain time, or he won't call me after a certain time, just out of respect for the significant other. But like my friendship isn't changed. Like I'm not about to drop all my male friends or my guy friends because I'm in a relationship. Like if I got in a relationship tomorrow, I wouldn't stop being your friend. You're one of my closest guy friends. You feel me? Like,
yeah, but we're not best friends.
I think boundaries is really the key word here. And I think I do agree. I think we need to define it, because for some people, best friend could be somebody you tell all your secrets to, somebody you are fully open with emotionally, and then that's where it can get tricky. That's where you have to be really careful. Mm-hmm. But for some people, best friends might be a little bit more surface, or not surface, but not as intimate. And then that's where I feel like, okay, it could be okay. But if you're extremely intimate with the other person, you tell them all your secrets. I'm not saying you will catch feelings, but I'm saying we would be naive to think that we don't need to place a certain boundary over our own hearts in order to avoid any type of feelings.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's a very black and white thing. Friends are cool. Best friends are not a thing. No.
And best friends while in a relationship or even in single.
But my question would be, why is it different then, right? Because there's boundaries still, right? So
Yeah.
if you are really close with a guy friend, almost to the point where it looks like you're dating, then I would say, I don't know, you got to be careful with that, because if another guy comes along, they might visualize and see that and assume things and say, oh, they might be together, and that could potentially, cause some people to turn the other way.
Yeah, and I think that, like, I think what you're saying though is, are you saying like in a relationship, like a girl or a guy shouldn't have a best friend of the opposite sex, or like even in your singleness?
I'm gonna stir the pot and say I don't know. I think it's very naive to think if you're even single and have a friend of the opposite sex that there are no emotions tied to it. Or best friend, okay. And that there are no emotions tied to it. I don't know.
Like currently or like ever? Because I think that like you can't currently be best friends with a person of the opposite sex and then like not catch feelings.
Yeah.
Or you're saying like at some time point in it, like.
Yeah, someone's gonna catch feelings. And so that
I think it depends. I think it depends on the relationship and the friendship. And
I disagree.
Really,
I disagree. Like, you can be friends, and as long as you have the boundary set and you let the person know your intentions from the beginning, that you guys will not be in a relationship. This is simply just friendship. You already let that other person know this is simply just as friends, and you can go deep with that person, without like catching feelings, if you let your intentions be known clear in the beginning.
I agree. Yeah.
So as long as you set the boundaries, it should be fine.
You think like with boundaries, that's the thing with boundaries, I would say, but then what are those boundaries, right? Am I the guy my deepest, darkest secrets? Am I telling my guy friend the things that I'm really struggling with? Am I opening up to that point? Because then I would say there's a little bit of naivete in that, to think that there's not going to be, because women, we're looking to be, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but we're looking to be known, right? Everyone is, essentially. And to somebody, if somebody knows us in that deep level and there is attraction there. If there's no attraction, sometimes it could differ, I don't know, and you guys can speak on that too, but I just feel like we need to be cautious in that, because our emotions tend to go ahead of us, and we just have to make sure that we stay ahead of our emotions and set those boundaries.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, like, again, like, it just goes back to, like, what is that relationship that you have with that person? Because, like, realistically, like, if I say that you're my best friend, like, if I was like, Jordy is my best friend, like, do I have to, like, catch feelings for you just because you're a person of the opposite sex? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why does it have to be that I, like, because, okay, for example, like, Hanu's brother is one of my best friends. I would say that he's my male best friend. Has our relationship changed as we both entered into relationships? Absolutely, right? There's been boundaries set, and it was just a natural kind of a thing. There is respect for each other. There's respect for each other's significant others. But then also communication had to be set, where, like, from the jump, when I was talking to my boyfriend about his girlfriends, I had to meet them. I had to know who they all were. I needed to know in the past with any of them. Like, all those things were conversations that were had on both sides too, where I told him the same thing too, because, like, my best guy friend from college can't just call me one day at like midnight and then, like, he'd be like, who is this person? Like, so now when I get a call or whatever, like, it's like, you know this person, you've met this person, we've gone out and, you know, had those conversations. I think that needs to be in place, so there's no surprises all of a sudden, right? I don't think that it's impossible, but does your friendship change? Absolutely. And it's not just with the opposite sex. Like, my friendships with my girlfriends have changed since I've been in a relationship. I can't go to them with every single thing. I can't go and run and be like, hey, I'm having this issue or whatever. Like, that's just, your relationships in general change. So they should definitely change with, it shouldn't be because it's the person of the opposite sex. It's just because you have now boundaries and respect in your relationship that stay within your relationship, you know?
Yeah.
So, you still don't agree with me? It's like, no, you can never do that.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think boundaries is what's kind of rung true in this conversation. Like, that's the thing that's been repeated. But I definitely see what you're saying. Like, if a guy and a girl are really, really, really close, though, even like Sam was saying, we've defined like, yo, we're just friends. There's definitely potential for somebody to catch feelings, even with it being defined as like, yo, we're friends, nothing more. in the vulnerability, in us sharing a lot of information with each other, a lot of like just the stuff that's going on in our hearts, a lot of the things that the Lord's doing in our lives, like there's potential, at least. I think, can we agree in that being a reality, or is it like, oh, this person I've just defined as nothing? Even if you've defined them and put them in that place in your life, you don't know if they've, they might potentially catch feelings.
Why you have to have that
you don't know what's
conversation.
going to happen in the future. We can't. I think it would be crazy to say I will never ever. I could never ever, because we don't. Emotions are a powerful thing. Vulnerability, transparency, acceptance. These things, when they start to develop, we can't just be like, oh, never, never. We can try, but I think at the end of the day, we might even end up surprising ourselves.
And I think if you're both single and like that happens, like I don't think that that's a bad thing. Like if that happens. I think I guess we're having two conversations, right? It's like, are both these people single, or is one person or both people in a relationship? Because if you're both single, I think that, I mean, it's up to you too, it's up to those two people to decide where they want to take that friendship or whatever. But if you're entering a relationship or whatever, then boundaries, like these are two completely different conversations.
Even if you're both single, I feel like there's boundaries in that too. Like, I'm not going to talk to my guy friends every single day. Like, that's just not, it's just is what it is. Like, I'm not going to talk to you every single day and like profess my undying emotions to you every single day, because then I might be leading you on, or I might be like, even though I know for a fact I don't see you like that, I'm not about to like lead you to believe that it could possibly be a thing. And like, those are the conversations that are had up front. Like, hey, I see you as my brother, or I see you as just my friend, and like, let's just, because I've had friends that switched up. Like, I've had friends who are like, oh, actually, all of a sudden I like you, and that completely ruined the trajectory of our friendship, because I'm thinking that we're just, like, and that's where wisdom comes in, because you have to know what you're inputting to. Like, I'm not about to, if I'm doing too much, or if I'm treating you like one of my girlfriends and that's leading you to believe something else despite the conversation we had, then we need to tone it back, and like that we're doing something wrong for me to make you feel like there's something more than a friendship. And that's on me too. But I just feel like you can have that friendship as long as, like Sam was saying, like, you can, as long as you have the conversation from the beginning, like, you're just my homie, I'm just your homie. Like, most of my guy friends see me as their brother. Like, I'm literally like their little brother to them in their head. So like, I know for a fact it can never go past what it is, because like, you don't even see me like that.
But those are also relationships that have stemmed from childhood too.
Yeah, like these are my my childhood homies. Like I mean, y'all know, but.
And I think it's just very different, right? Because like then like I think trust comes into play. Like, why don't you trust that women and men can be best friends?
Is there insecurity stem from that?
Yeah. And which is totally, but which is totally like valid. It's 100% valid. But I think I think it'd be unwise to say that every relationship is going to be the same and every guy and girl best friend are going to like. It's very situational. But it is their responsibility to communicate it, to guide it in the right way, and all those things.
But do you think it's safe to say that women should put more boundaries on their male close friends than their women, or do you think it's still just universal regardless?
Yeah, because I can't get romantically like involved with my girl best friend, You
agree with that? Because I would argue, even what Hanu was saying too, is like, by definition, you're putting more boundaries on your male friends. Have those boundaries, but recognize that it's not the same as having a close girlfriend.
Yeah,
it's not
for
even
sure.
The same, and the boundaries also won't look the same, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, for sure. And I would be interested to hear the viewpoint from a guy or a girl who genuinely their number one, like Yafet is my best friend, my guy best friend, but like he's not my number one person I go to. I have my girl best friend that is the number one person that I go to. So it'd be interesting to have.
I guess there'd have to be like one unified definition of a best friend first. Because then you have like more than one best friend.
Absolutely.
So I guess my understanding is if there's one person I go to, that cannot be a woman if I'm in a relationship.
Yeah. Like I would.
If I have like 5 people, sure, I guess one of them could be a woman.
The only reason I said that is because that's the one person I know that knows things that that you don't know, right? And
sure,
like that's why I define that as like a different layer of closer than just a friend.
But also, what is your significant other's, or what is your best friend's respect level for your relationship? Because like, I know for me, I was in a relationship, and I was in a long-term relationship, and his best friend was a woman, and like she had zero respect. Like, there was clearly boundaries, or I know he didn't have feelings for her, but she clearly was like showing something and I was like, yeah, that's not like that's dead. Like you're not about to, that's not your friend anymore. And like I'm not the type of person that says like you can and cannot be friends with people. But if there's, because at first I was like, you know, I have guy best friends, so like I can't be mad at it, like at someone else for having a girl best friend. But as soon as I see there's a lack of respect for me and my relationship, like whether like my best friend is this guy Bakari, like Bakari would never disrespect anyone I'm dating, you know. And so if I see that my significant other's best friend is a woman and she doesn't show the same respect in that relationship, then that's actually not your friend. Real. And like, because if you love me as a friend, then you're gonna love my relationship too.
That's so real.
And like you'll love them the way you love me. So like never, like I can put my whole life on it. Bakari would never like disrespect any guy I'm dating, you know. He would never disrespect because that's like he sees it as long term, and that's gonna be my, you know, that's gonna be my long term friend. And so the second that I feel like he's respecting my man, then I have to like, that's a conversation that needs to be had. So
that's good.
That's good. Yeah. So you know, the way I'm working through this, you know, I actually struggle with like, as of late, the difference between a friend and a best friend. I think that's like a term culture has put on friendships, but yeah, I think like a friend is someone who knows you, right? And I guess best friends see you more. I think that's the way culture has defined it, but I think historically speaking, a friend will always just see you, you know what I mean? And so if we're going to work with that definition of being seen, being known, I think that shouldn't only be reserved for, you know, the sex that you are. I think that men and women both can see and know one another. I think, you know, and this is my personal conviction. I think we lose out on life when we only see the opposite sex as an option for a spouse and nothing more. I think we can learn a lot from one another. I think we can grow from being in relationship with one another, in friendship. I mean, the Bible calls us brothers and sisters, you know. Maybe that's what we need to do. Maybe we need to redeem those terms. Like, what does it look like to be a brother? What does it look like to be a sister? But to kind of just keep a distance from the opposite sex and say, oh, I can't get close with you because we'll catch feelings is, I think unhelpful. I do want to bring up something Fikru said, because you could still have those working definitions. You guys could be very intentional and lay out the, you know, just kind of the guidelines, the just kind of like the I don't know, I'm losing the word, the boundaries for how the friendship is going to operate. But yeah, the heart is tricky, right? You never know what's going to happen. And I think somebody can catch feelings, but it goes back to how intentional you are. I think intentionality doesn't stop in the beginning. I think if you're a good friend, you're intentional throughout the friendship. So these conversations are being brought up where there's a safe space if somebody does catch feelings to be like, yo, I know initially we talked about us just being friends, maybe because of where I'm at in life, maybe because I saw something about you that I want in a spot. I don't know, whatever. My heart is just leading me in a different way. Can we set new boundaries, or can we maybe step away from this? I think intentionality has to be at the forefront of the relationship continuously, not just at the start of the friendship. But just because there's a potential for that to happen doesn't mean we shouldn't engage or pursue friendships. I think it was Joseph Solomon. He said this at a PIA tour one time, and it just resonated with me. And I think I've shared this with some of y'all, but he said, it is dangerous to see the opposite sex as a temptation before a human being. And I think that rang so true for me, because growing up in the culture and the context I grew up in, that's how we perceive the opposite sex. Like, oh, don't get too close, you might catch something. And we miss out on beautiful human beings. We miss out on beautiful individuals that can teach us even a new thing about who God is, share new insights to us, or even reflect God in a way that a male can't. And as a woman, something they can point us to in a new way. And so that's kind of how I see things. I think you got to be really wise. I think you got to be intentional. I think you have to constantly confront things. I think you got to be honest with yourself to make things work as well. Because if you're not honest with yourself, and if you don't have a sense of self-awareness, it'll be very difficult to even catch certain things and bring to light certain things as well. And so, but my whole conviction is like, yo, as long as you know, as long as there's boundaries, as long as there's conversations, as long as there's intentionality, yeah, I think you're okay in pursuing someone to pursuing a friendship with the opposite sex. And I think that it can be healthy for the soul even, and healthy for your understanding of who God is altogether.
Yeah, I have a rebuttal.
Let's do it. We're here.
I want to go back to what you said about, right, we're all brothers and sisters, and that friendship is, I guess, wanting to be known and seen.
Yeah.
I think you and Hunter are the only two people who have a brother and a sister. So I'd ask you, who sees you more, your brother or your sister? Like, who knows you deeper? I guess for you, right? Who has more access to your life?
Yeah.
Right? Your brother or your sister?
You'll make me get in trouble.
I mean, I think by nature, I would assume, right, for you, it would be your sister. I would assume for you, it would be your brother.
Hold on.
Let's talk about
No. I like the reason why it would be my brother, but the only reason is because my sister is 11 years younger than me. So like, I think that that's a factor, but I have seen siblings like that are really close, like guy-girl siblings that are really, really close.
Yeah, are like, that's really my home. Like, you know, sometimes your siblings aren't your friends. Like, that's really my home. So I feel like, yeah, and if you're watching, I love you too. But I feel like in different senses, there's a different aspect of the relationship for both of them. Like my sister Yanet, I mean, we shared a room for God knows how long. So like, you know, there's certain aspects that I go to her. Like if I'm having, I don't know, certain dilemmas, like she's the person. But a lot of other things I do go to my brother for. Like there's a lot of like faith talk and a lot of like relational things, because my brother is one of the first Christian men I knew. Like, so it's like when it comes to like, I don't know, like, so Abu, you brought up a good point. So like your friendships teach you certain things. So I feel like for me, I didn't grow up in a house with like Christian men, so, or like a family with Christian men. And so when I had these friendships with people like Yordi or Abu or Yafit or Yoni, like all these male figures in the church and who know God, each friendship has taught me like, okay, this is what, like, I can take a characteristic, not saying I'm attracted to anyone, like any of you guys, but like there's certain characteristics I can take. There's certain characteristics I can take and I can say like, this makes up a great person. And like, there's certain things that I now hold to a threshold because of the male friendships that I have. And like women friendships too, like wisdom that I might get from Zema, or biblical knowledge that I might get from Mekli. Like these are things that I can pick out and say, okay, these are characteristics that I hope my spouse has. And it's from my friendships. So and I don't look at any of like, I don't like you like that. Like, you feel me? Like I'm not looking at y'all like that, but there's a lot of characteristics that you can pull from your friendships and they can cultivate a new understanding. Like I didn't have to grow up in a house with a male figure who's Christian to understand that, okay, now that I have all these friendships, I now know what I look for in a spouse.
Yeah. Fikru, you have a sister that's a twin. What's that look like for you guys?
Yeah, I think, and I don't have a brother to compare her with. It's just me and her. But I mean, we have a really, really close relationship. Yeah, we went through it together. We struggled together. We're here together. I mean, I feel like we've grown in the Lord together. We've struggled to, like, there's just been a bunch of stuff that in our relationship that I've grown in knowing Jesus. I've grown in seeing there's people I've seen her in a lot of ways, and it's been really beneficial. And in the same way, like sisters in Christ, like in high school and most of college, I didn't have a lot of like female friends because of what you were saying. Like we grew up with this mentality that women are like temptation primarily. And so, but since then, I have, like, even the past year or two, I've grown in seeing like the values that my sister have, the qualities that my sisters have, and I've seen a lot of the Lord in them. Like you were saying, like I can see a lot of things in my sisters that I don't see in my brothers, because my sisters reflect Jesus in a way that my brothers don't reflect Jesus. But I think a really important thing, and something you guys were saying before too, is like, we got to be really intentional with I have to be really intentional with communicating with my sisters, that I'm not pursuing them in any way, like that I'm not trying to be at them, like nothing like that. It's just, we're just friends type stuff. And sometimes that works well, sometimes that doesn't work well, but in communicating that, it's like, it's worth the relationships that I gain Like it's, you know, the I don't even say drama, but the miscommunications, the issues that we're working through, the growth that I've seen in these relationships, like it's worth pursuing female relationships. I think where I differ a little bit is like I have a lot of female friends, and I've grown a lot in knowing Jesus and knowing them, and gaining a lot of knowledge and wisdom myself. I still wouldn't say I have like this one person that is my like above everybody else. Like, no, I have guy accountability, I have guy like discipleship, I have guy stuff. So like as long as my relationship with my sisters doesn't prevent me or replace my male discipleship or accountability and stuff like that, like then I think I'm in a good place. But when I think best friend, I'm thinking like this is the person I go to for everything. When I'm struggling, when I'm tempted, when I'm this, when I'm that, like this is the person I'm going to. And that's why I say like maybe this best friend should be reserved for somebody that's within your sex. But there's a lot of value in female friend, like cross sex friendships. I think there's a lot of dope wisdom to be exchanged. I think there's just a lot to be gained in it. And so I think I'm in agreement with the majority of what everybody's saying.
Yeah, I see that. Like I can definitely see how being too close with someone and them being your confidant and like replacing that discipleship or that accountability or whatever, like I would never attempt for one of my guy friends to like hold me accountable. Like that's what I have like my sisters in Christ for. Like I don't need but I can see how that would be dangerous because at that point we're married. Like if you're doing all that
Yeah, Jordy, you good, bro? You got any more thoughts? Sorry, McLeod.
Me? No, I think Fugu hit on the head. I think that was, I mean, he said it more elegant and sophisticated
less
way
aggressive.
Than I could, right?
Less aggressive.
I guess less aggressive than I can. But no, that was pretty much my point. Was having one person that you go to being the opposite sex is such a slippery slope. And he even I didn't even think about it in the sense of accountability or even in a spiritual sense of saying that they're replacing my guy. I didn't even think about it that way. I'm thinking of more of like if you're the one person I go to. Like for one thing after another thing after another thing, there's bound to be some type of emotional connection, and that could be a very slippery slope if one person has that and the other person doesn't. But even Fruku came at a perspective I didn't even think about, and that only drives my point deeper. So, but yeah, what you were saying, Michael?
Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say like with the best friend and the friend, I think there's a distinction there, right? That we've clearly differentiated between. So, can guys and girls be friends? Definitely, I think it's encouraged. I think it's biblical. I think it's great. Best friend, I think that's where maybe we all have different opinions, and that's okay too. But I think hold to your personal perspective of what a best friend is. Because for me, I kind of agree with Jordy in that it's going to be one person I go to for accountability for my struggles, and I would never go to a man for that, just because I know personally that's not the wisest thing for me to do. So yeah, I think there definitely is a distinction between friends and then best friend. So we just need to make sure that we're mindful of that.
I don't like the word best. We should just say close friends. Yeah, because you can have multiple close friends that you can go to and you can pour your heart out to, and you can get disciples through.
Find that as one. A lot of people define that as one person.
Yeah, I'm thinking of like.
Okay, I wasn't. So I think my guy friends are like my quote unquote close friends.
I have close guy friends.
You guys are my close friends.
I think you like that's like Jordy would be my close friend, but like there are things that I go to Yafet for.
But there's layers of close friends.
From college and from what I mean, but then like the second, I don't even know, I guess that's a whole other conversation, but like something just changed in our relationship naturally when he got into a relationship and when I got into a relationship where it just was like different. And what was so vital and so important was that I became really cool friends and like not like really close with Melody and intentional with her, and he did with Sheesh. Like that just had to happen, and it naturally happened, and that's why there's respect there, to the point where like I would hope that one day it gets to a point where like I can talk to Melody more than I go to Yafet for, just out of respect for their relationship, right? So, and that's what we're working on like now, and it's a very natural thing. It'd be like you said, like that's happened to me in my past relationship where my ex's girlfriend was like, or like friend that was a girl was like really weird to me, and I was like, I don't like that, like, and that's just immediately like, okay, so y'all are dating, like what's going on, so
y'all are together.
Y'all are literally together. I'm the side chick, and that's where it gets kind of messy, and that just has to be a clear from friends too. Like you have girlfriends, so like your girlfriends need to make sure that they respect and honor your relationship as well, and like have those boundaries, and like your relationship with those girls naturally change too, even if they're not your best friends. Like I can't just be calling you at like, I mean, like, you know, like at like midnight for fun,
right?
Because it's just not where we're at anymore as friends.
Yeah, so it seems like we're all in agreement. It was just definitions.
I think we all have different definitions of what a best friend is, and I think that that's like fine, because if we had one definition, then our best friends wouldn't even be our best friends.
There you go.
You know,
That's
like
true.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Good. So, all right, switching gears here a little bit. So let's say, I actually want to hear from the women on this. But let's say y'all are feeling a guy, right? There's a guy that is catching your eye, but he's not really pursuing, right? He's not really, letting you know what the business is. Do you guys feel comfortable pursuing him? Or maybe pursuit is a strong word. Letting your intentions be known, or dropping some hints, because sometimes brothers, we're a little slow in picking up what y'all laying down. But would you guys, kind of help him out and let him know, like, yo, I'm kind of feeling you. I'm feeling this. Is there something to explore here?
I literally.
You're about to puke?
All I know is I'm trying to be as politically correct as possible. Me shooting my shot is saying hello. And past that, if you're not really catching it, you're not catching it. But I feel like I don't think there's a like a say so, like men have to pursue women. I mean, everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I know women who have shot their shot in the DMs. That's their prerogative. But I know for me, that's an absolutely for me in my household, that's never gonna happen. Because I just don't think that's not my character. I'm naturally shy. It's not my character to shoot my shot at a guy.
I'm not shy with women, let alone men.
I'm shy with humans, animals, everyone. So it's like.
Can I add its personality though?
Yeah.
So let's make the distinction, right? Like it's like for me, my personality, I'm with Hanu. I don't think I could, never say never, but like just my personality.
Never.
But is it wrong for women to pursue men?
No.
Is it wrong for women to make the first move? No. Is it wrong? In my opinion, I don't believe that there's anything that says no. Is it wrong for a woman to let a guy know she has feelings for it, she's into him, whatever? No. However, godly men initiate, and that whether it be from the very beginning or throughout the relationship, hopefully throughout, godly men initiate. That's something that I don't really think can be like debated. If a man is being led, quote unquote, I don't like that word because I feel like it might be reserved for marriage, but if a man is essentially being led by a woman in dating season, what makes us think that when she gets that ring, all of a sudden he's going to be a leader and he's going to initiate and he's going to, it doesn't make sense. So I think observe the patterns in the dating season, and whatever you want to call it, if it's pursuing, I don't know, mutual agreements, like I think there needs to be initiation from the man. And I think there needs to, passivity is a red flag. Passive men, I think that's a red flag for a lot of us. I don't know if I want to speak for you guys, but passive men is a huge red flag. So with that being said, to answer the question, can a woman shoot her shot? Is it wrong? I don't believe it's wrong. Props to the women who do that. However, I believe that godly men initiate, and godly men will make their intentions known. Godly men will know what they want, and they'll communicate that consistently to pursue when there's actually like the relationship happening. But if a woman is doing all the work, if she's the one kind of initiating everything, then I would say that's a problem. But that's my viewpoint.
I have a follow-up question to that, because I hear that often, and I have thoughts on that. What I'm hearing is it's not okay, or it's okay for women to initiate, but it's not ideal. Like what you guys would prefer is because you said godly men initiate. So that to me says, that's a statement right there, that if he is following Jesus, it's expected that he's the one who initiates the relationship. So does that mean then you guys would, like, women can, but we don't prefer to, or we don't feel like it's our place? What do you mean by that? Does that make sense? Does that question make sense?
Can I have a follow-up question to your question? that only makes sense if we know that the man is interested. What if you're interested in the man that
So that's why I think it's important for women to, if you are feeling a guy and he has no idea or you don't think he has any idea, it's okay to like not just hint, but be vocal, be clear. Like if that's what you want to do, be clear.
Yeah.
But then what? I think the pursuit happens then. I don't believe the pursuit necessarily starts and ends right when you're like, hey, I like you. There's a responsibility from both parties, I believe, to be consistent and to initiate to a certain degree. But let's look at the alternative of a woman just initiating everything throughout the process, right? Because I believe pursuing is a process. Throughout the process, then I would say that's an issue. Not only is it not ideal, but I look to character. That's what I look to, right? So that speaks volumes about the man's character. Is that a man that you want to marry? So that's kind of just the perspective that I'm coming from, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So if you were talking to, I completely agree. So if either of you were like talking to a guy, or like DMing or whatever, messaging a guy, and you're like not sure where it's at, are you going to continue messaging him until he lets you know where it's at, like, or what his intentions are, or are you going to be like, hey, like we've been messaging for a while and things are kind of like what is this, what's going on?
What is this? This is so uncomfortable. I think no, like at what point, at that point I'm just gonna assume he sees me as his homie, or like I'm his brother, because like there's no way that you're continuing conversation and there's no type of pursuit, or like if he's actually interested, yeah, like he'll say something like, and I'm not about to catch a hint. Like you have to legit be straight up and say, hey Hanu, like we've been talking, you're cool, like XYZ. Because if there's nothing, it's a gray area. I'm gonna take that as you're not ready, you're not interested, or you're not willing to, like
Wasting my time.
you're wasting my time, and now you're my brother. All of a sudden we're related.
But that's not always the case, because sometimes like men are just shy or men are not confident. So like
where a woman has initiated it and they're married now. I'm not gonna name names, but the whole process, and it started off in terms of, she said, hey, this is me shooting my shot. I'm paraphrasing here, but she said, I'm interested in you. And it caught him by surprise because he really wasn't getting that vibe, but he wanted to kind of pursue it forward. And so can I sit here and say that shouldn't happen? No, I don't think so. From my personality, from Han's personality, maybe.
I think it's safer to say that if you are having a conversation with a woman and like you guys are talking often and you're getting to know each other, just as the man, step up and say, hey, like this is where, so like, I mean, to speak for myself, like that's kind of what happened with my relationship, or the pursuit of that. Like we were messaging for a while, like nothing romantic. Like I really wasn't even in the season of looking for anyone genuinely. And we had been messaging for a couple, like 2 weeks or so. And he was like, hey, I'm going to keep it real with you. I don't want to waste your time. I am feeling you. I don't know if it's reciprocated, but I do want to intentionally pursue you further, like more romantically. And I don't want you to feel like I'm wasting your, like it was something like that. And that caught me by surprise, because I was like, oh, like this, first of all, this is different, you know what I mean? And then like two, I really had respect for that. Yeah, unfortunately, but two, I had respect for that, because I was like, okay, like that means something, that you don't want to just sit here and make me assume that you like me or you don't like me, or you just want to be the homie. Like it was very straight up. He gave me the choice to, like, I don't know where you're at, but I just need to let you know where I'm at. And he was genuinely okay with me saying, I don't see you that way, and let's continue this as friends. But he just was like, I can't continue from this point on to waste either of our times. Yeah. You know, and I think that makes a huge difference. And I guess that's what you're
explaining. I think there's value in being forward in that way, for sure. And I think there's godliness in that. I think eliminating that confusion.
And there needs to be humility and understanding. Mm-hmm. And if she is not feeling that same way, and both parties have to be really responsible and mature in like keeping it at that. And what I think it's I'm okay.
Are you gonna be toxic?
No.
I think pursuit in the church looks a lot different than it does in the world. And I can only speak, and some people have never really been in the world, and so that's on them. But like I've actually that's a lot. But so I think we were okay. Anyways, I think that like coming from a person who I've never been in like a quote unquote Christian relationship, right? And so like my previous like relationship was not with someone who was in the church or someone who was a believer. And so, and this is also BC Hanu. Like this was like college Hanu, different person, still knew God, was confused, whatever. So I feel like in that pursuit in the world looks a lot different. I feel like a lot of women are used to like guys just coming at them and saying, hey, like, I'm interested straight up. Like,
Yeah.
and granted, their pursuit might be rooted in lust. It might be rooted in superficial things. So I completely understand that. But like, a lot of times it is different. So if we're used to guys, I'm used to guys being straight up and saying, hey, this is like, I'm feeling you and this is this, or hey, I think this of you and I'm trying to get to know you. And then rewind to 3 years ago and I'm really taking my walk seriously and I'm like in the church. Granted, I'm not looking for a relationship, but I'm seeing it. I'm like, oh wow, everyone's shy, or like guys aren't, and even if they're not shy, like they're more intentional and like they're trying to be extremely sure before they like pursue a woman. And a lot of us aren't used to that. Like we're used to like guys just going straight up. And so that was a culture shock for me. So I was like, hold on, like I'm now thinking I'm everyone's friend, because even if there is pursuit or there's interest, it's not straight up. And so that's confusing. And I don't know if that's a bad thing per se, because I feel like there should be like more pursuit or more like straight up. Because like if you and Sheesh were going back and forth in the DMs for a while, he could have very well easily, you could have been confused. And I would have been like, oh, is he trying to talk to me? Because at that point, if a guy's trying to talk to me, I'm assuming he's trying to talk to me. And then he could have been like, oh, no, I see you as a sister. Like, and that would have thrown me off, because I'm like, hold on, why are you talking to me for 2 weeks if that's all it is? At that point, like, we don't need to talk every day. We don't need to talk consistently if you just see me as that. So I feel like the pursuit is different, and it's hard to navigate. And I don't know why it's so hard to navigate, but it is hard to navigate.
I don't know. For me, I would prefer, you know what I'm saying, if a girl drops a hint, you know, like, thank you, you're helping to get it out, you know what I'm saying?
A hint is her responding to your messages consistently.
Yeah.
That's real. I mean, that could be said with like my sisters in Christ too, like that respond to my messages,
you
know?
You know who your sisters in Christ are, and that like if I'm messaging Yordi back, like before we were both single, okay, yeah, Yordi doesn't reply, but let's say Yordi responded to text. Like if we're messaging back and forth, like we kind of already know. And let's say I did reach out to him, or he did reach out and was like, hey, like, you know, whatever, like I just want to set intentions and say we're just friends. That's where it sets there too. Like regardless, communication needs to be set to understand what. You're really quiet, and I don't know how you're taking what I'm saying.
I want to be selective of what I say.
But
yeah, I hear you. Like, I completely hear you. What I'm saying is, like, it'll make the job easier. Like, but I still agree with you guys, though. I wouldn't want the guy to pursue. I wouldn't want the guy to, you know, make his intentions clear at first. But if it was the other way around, like, man, the guy's not doing anything. He's shy. He doesn't have the confidence, right? I would want the girl to give him some kind of help. You know what I mean? The Bible says, you know, wife is a helper. You know,
she said hello, bro. She said hello. What are you talking about?
Hold on now.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but I would say that men do need to kind of step up a little more.
So I think right. I think you hit on the head earlier, talking about at what point is a pursuit. If you're vocalizing your interest, then the man pursues, or is it you just saying, hey, I like you, the pursuit? Because if you, and then
the initiation, I think, is the first point. I think
if you coming up to me and like, oh, I like you, that's
initiation.
Pursuit, or is it?
That's initiating pursuit.
That's opening
That's setting your
intentionality. That's opening the field
That's
up to now say, hey, you can do what you think.
Right, do what you want with that.
Do what you want with that. Exactly.
Yes, so that is the pursuit. So I guess the conversation and the
I don't think
argument
that's the
is
pursuit, because the pursuit
That's
is the
not-
process.
yeah. So I think generally what we're saying is it's okay and it's not wrong, because right, if Hanu's, I'm just, you know, using Hanu's example. If you're interested in me and I had no idea, and you tell me like, oh, okay, you know, Hanu is pretty. She is intelligent. You know, so I think the initiation is different from the pursuit. So I would say it's not. I don't think people know the difference between initiation and pursuit. So it's not wrong for women to initiate, but I would think it's, you know, kind of cowardly for men not to pursue after that. So that's mine.
I have a question for Sam. Also, Fibber, if you have an answer to this too, because I don't know your stance. But so is you wanting the woman to like give you a hint out of fear of that she may or may not reject you if you just go ahead without a hint? Like, are you afraid that if you just go ahead and like try to talk to her, is it because you want to know for sure before you initiate, or is it because you're afraid of the rejection?
No, to know, like, yo, okay, we're having the same vibe, so I can actually fully commit to this. You know, I'm gonna be like, all right, I'm gonna invest
Why do you need
everything.
her to do it?
Mhm.
Huh?
Why do you need her to do it? Like, why don't? Why? If
No,
you're-
no,
if
I'm
you-
giving, for example, let's say, I'm giving her like, vibes that I'm interested in, but like at the same time, like if she's not showing that kind of same response, it makes it hard. Like, okay, this is somebody I want to be with. Like maybe she doesn't want to be in a relationship. Like, it gives you that vibe. I'm just looking for that vibe. Like, okay, I'm kind of getting the same
Energy.
You
But
get me?
you're throwing out something first, and you're saying she's catching vibe.
I hope she catched it, and then I hope she sends it back.
It's hard to define that because like guys and girls can be really friendly. I've seen it happen so many times where we're
Not like
so
that.
friendly, more intentional than in the world. Because I've also never been in a Christian relationship, and it's what Hanu said was so on point. I'm gonna let you talk in a second. Was so on point because it's just not. A man can be. I've had a guy literally say, "I intentionally want to pursue you as a friend. Like I want to be your friend." I've literally had a Christian man say, "I want you to know this is my like. I want to be your friend."
That's
nice.
That,
That's
though.
nice.
It's nice. It's nice,
yeah.
but like I think it was really nice. But I
It
think
doesn't confuse her then on where they're at or how he feels about her.
we didn't even know each other yet. That's what he just said. I want to pursue you as a friend, and I want to like friendship to me is important. I want to make my intentions clear. And I think I forgot my point now, but I feel like at the end of the day, like men are really friendly in the church, and sometimes it rubs people. There needs to be that conversation.
That's
What
a
are you
whole that's a whole
I
thing, and
can't-
I
let
already
me just-
know what she's already
let
gonna
me
say.
just
Just
put
mind
it
you,
on-
wait. You have to preface this by saying we came into like the church very late compared to everybody that was.
We
on
were
our
there,
team.
then we left, then we came
Culture
back.
Exactly.
shock.
Like we
Culture
like
shock.
I mean, at least for me, it was like middle school, high school, college. I was like, why do I need this? And then after college, I came in and I was like, whoa, like.
Yeah.
So
To the
I just want to
church.
preface to the church. I wanted to preface by saying like.
We're coming from having left and
So
came back.
assumptions are
Yeah.
don't like my thing is do not assume even if you're throwing these vibes or whatever unless it's clear. I think somebody needs to step up and say it. Somebody needs to step up and approach and be forward and really just say like, hey, this is how I feel. Otherwise these vibes gonna be thrown back and forth for the entire game and you're just gonna be tired. Like I don't know, I don't really know.
Now I agree with you. Once I get that vibe, I'm like saying, hey girl, this is how I feel.
So once I get confirmation, I'm good, huh?
Why do you need confirmation?
I didn't get. Did I get?
Wait,
I didn't get
can
confirmation.
I say a quote?
I don't need that confirmation. I'm saying it would help.
Wait,
It would help.
Can I say something really quick?
Well,
Wait,
like,
no,
your
wait,
whole
Pastor Ebenezer, you said something in part one, at the very end of the episode, when you like quoted a quote from Pastor Neb, and you were like, if men are not willing to take the risk, I'm paraphrasing, then a man is not willing to pursue a woman, or ready to pursue a woman. Like if a man is not ready, was that it?
If a man, he said, if a man is not ready to be rejected, a man is not ready to pursue.
Come on, man.
That's what it is. Because at the end of the day, Sam, like if you're talking to this girl, right, and you say, hey, like these are my intentions, and she says, I don't see it that way.
Yeah.
Next,
No,
like,
I agree with you. That my point was like, it would help. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it. It would make it easier to say it.
I think it holds you back from pursuing women because of that.
Huh?
Yes.
Does it hold you back from pursuing women because
That's a
because
spicy
of that?
question.
Like because of the not being 100% sure of her vibes? Like does that hold you back from pursuing different women or a woman?
Yes.
Can he?
In the past, I would say yeah.
Okay.
This is a blanket answer for all.
And I think that any woman listening to this, I think you also need to hear the guys on this because that probably comes from a place of embarrassment or a place of fear that she's going to go and like tell people. And we talked about this in the last episode in part 2. Like if a guy don't feel the same way, respectfully just tell him how you feel and keep it moving. Like other people don't need to know that he pursued you. People don't, your best friends don't need to know that. Like it's just very immature. I know it's like I know it's easy to just go and tell your friends, but then it's like why?
Yeah.
And I had to learn that. I don't know how that happened, but like when I first was being pursued, when she was pursuing me, my best friends didn't know for the first I guess I want to say like 2 months that we were talking. I didn't tell anyone. And that came from a lot of things, right? That came from, I want to have my own, opinions on who this person is. The people that I did tell were, the only person that I did tell at first was my pastor, because I was like, hey, this guy's pursuing me. What do you know about him? Because I need to know like if there are any red flags, right? And we had that conversation. And then once I was getting to know him, I told people, because what's the point of if this doesn't work out? Maybe if it didn't work out, I would tell like my best friend, hey, this happened and it didn't work out, right? But like it just doesn't make sense to, it's just a very, if you think about your intent of why you're telling people, it's never for like it's gossip, and it's not for a good reason. And that goes for men and women, I think, but specifically I think that's what kind of holds men back. Am I wrong?
No, I think we talked about it yesterday. I think the two overwhelming reasons why, specifically, I mean, we're all Abishai, so I can only speak for the Abishai Christian community. The two overwhelming reasons why men don't pursue women in the church is, for one, I think gossip is a big one. How do I look after this doesn't work out, right? So and two, if I date you, and if we talked about it in part one, that X's out all your friends. And I'm like, well, Shorty was kind of cute too, you know what I mean? Like, well, that cancels everyone out. So those are the two, right? So if
communities are so small,
right? No, like, if we went on a couple dates and it didn't work out, that means I can no longer date Mekli. I can't date Hanu. I can't, like, that X's out because it's some.
If we went on dates, or if you were talking to me and pursuing me, and then I was like, nah.
I think either or.
Yeah, there.
So that's how you figure them out.
So
I feel like dates,
I think, right, we talk about this, why men are scared to cast, blah, blah, blah. I don't agree with any of that. I think the two overwhelming reasons why men are pursuing is because of gossip is the number one. Is how would I look like when people know that I'm pursuing this person?
Yeah.
And two, it's like,
or I got rejected.
Or I got rejected. Two, is now if I date you doesn't work, now that means 5 other potential women are canceled out.
Yeah, and that same quote about like being, like you're not ready to pursue if you're not ready to be rejected. It goes the same way with women. Like you're not ready to be pursued if you're going to gossip about it and be immature or childish about that pursuit. Like then you're not ready to pursue. So you have to question like why maybe God wants you to be single.
And that's why we're talking, when Sam was talking about we as men need to be like 150% sure, is because it's rooted of like, if this doesn't work, then like all 5 other options don't work. That's why we need to be so sure.
Do you guys agree with that?
I mean, yeah, you 3 can tell me if I'm wrong.
I'd agree.
Yeah.
So what's the question?
I think that's real.
Yeah, I'll go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's real. He's like, man, you got to be 150% sure, because you saying goodbye to a whole community, man. You got to say goodbye to a whole city, a whole church. You feel me? If it doesn't work.
Can I just say, I've actually, and I was telling you this yesterday, I've actually overheard somebody that I didn't know very well, but I overheard her go up to her friend very loudly and talk about how a guy had shot a shot and she was not about it. And she said it by name. And I literally I was just like, oh my God, like, why is this the norm? Why, like, I don't know. That was something that really made me feel so bad, because I was like, now I kind of understand. This guy got dragged and he did absolutely nothing except just approach a girl. It's not like he played her. It's not like he did anything. And even if he did, there's still a level of wisdom you exercise in sharing that information, of course. But it's just I don't know. It was sad. And so that's why I brought up in the last podcast, if a guy approaches you and you are not feeling it, it starts and it ends right there. And there is no need outside of pride and your desire to be noticed that you're going around telling people. And I'm sorry if that sounds harsh, but I think we need to look at ourselves. We need to look inside first and say, what is causing me to do this? Should I, speak about this, or should I keep my mouth shut?
Why don't you guys think that this is a huge issue in non-Abishai Christian communities? Because they don't I don't think that I've never seen that to be a thing where it's don't tell people that this person pursued you. It's just if they do.
It is.
I also don't think. I mean, we were also talking about this yesterday.
Oh, y'all have lots of conversations.
We were in Dallas a year and a half ago, and we were at a church, and their youth, all 3 of us, right?
Yeah.
And their youth pastor was 19 years old and was married, right? And so us 3, we were absolutely.
No, I didn't say that. Y'all said that.
We were
oh wow, okay, good.
Couldn't be me.
No, the guys were so shook.
So
and but then also they were dragging you guys too. They were like, why are none of you guys married?
Yeah, and mind you, we're coming in 24, 25, 26. And they're like, why are you guys not married? What's wrong with you guys? Right? And so
I think they had a meeting with you guys too about it too.
Yeah, that's a whole nother
and I got to thinking, it's almost like they kind of don't have much of a heavy emphasis. This might sound wrong, but I kind of want to explain. They don't have such a heavy emphasis on marriage as much as the Abishai community does. For example, if I need to be so sure because like it's almost like my identity's in this person. Everything. I mean, that we might not be saying that like outwardly, but almost like I need to be so sure that I need to get my money right. I need to get this right. I need to get X, Y, Z, A, B, C, D in order first. Because like then like I have to give the rest of myself to this person. Where like, you know, these people in what was it, Wichita, Texas, I don't forget where it was. Yeah. You know, these people are 19, 18, you know, ring by spring. And they're just like, yeah, like I like this person, she likes me. We love the Lord, let's get married. We're both broke, we're both
That's so
whatever.
wild to me. It's just culture. It's just a different culture.
Yeah, I think it's just culture. They don't have such a because right, personally, right, if you asked me a year ago when I would want to get married, I would say probably 29, 30, right? Because I'm thinking I need to be like I'm probably not gonna be financially ready. Well, I'm 26 now. I need to be. I don't think I'll be financially ready till I'm 28, 29. I think I mean like spirit, like whatever, right? But not 20. So I have a new job right now at 26. I'm significantly more financially stable, right? And that has changed my perspective for marriage.
So you want to get married now?
So now my timeline has shrunk significantly.
So you're just getting married
because
now?
it's like,
Is this your marriage
pump
now?
your brakes.
Yeah.
But and I think a large portion of that, I don't know if we're getting off topic here, but a large portion of that came from my financial security of like.
But what does that have to do with?
But
marriage?
I think also like culture is a huge part of it, right? Because like what we also have to see is like their parents did the same thing that they did.
But
then like it just goes down into this generation. Like it's not this generational thing where it's not a big deal to like find your boyfriend and get married and start your family at that age.
But also,
for us, it's like my mom is like, you don't need to be married anytime soon until you get your graduate degree. You know what I mean? Like it's very, and there's just a difference in the culture of that too.
Yeah, I think for men too, especially in the option like sphere, is right. We're raised with parents who like the man is like the top. He provides financially. He's the spiritual leader. He's all these like, so, and then kind of almost like, I don't want to throw a whole culture under the bus here, but right, it's almost like it's not really a partnership. It's kind of like the man does it and the wife is just at home cleaning, right? And that's kind of like almost all we see. At least that's how it is for me, right? It was kind of like dad, mom, us, right? And there was no like. So when I'm seeing that growing up for 26 years, I'm like, oh, okay, I need to be this top of the tier guy where it's like I need to be financially ready, spiritually ready, emotionally ready, all these things. I need to have a house. I need to have all things right because it's almost subconscious. Like my wife is not going to help me with these things. I need to do it.
Do you see how that's almost unbiblical?
Sure, but I mean, this is what we're raised on, right? This is not like oh, we're just all toxic men and we're just like, oh, the women are beneath us, right? We're raised with this mentality of my dad is doing everything. My dad is working 20 hours a day. My dad is doing all these things for us. I have to do all these things first before I have a wife.
Yeah.
And I think that I think that also speaks to, you know, growing up, you constantly hear, yo, we gave up so much, we sacrificed so much so that you guys can have a better future, a better tomorrow. And so you kind of inherit this burden because you don't want to disappoint family too. And so you're not necessarily for a lot of your younger years thinking about, you don't have the freedom to think, I want to get married. It's how do I make sure that I don't disappoint my parents, my culture, my community? How do I make sure that I make something of myself so that even my parents are taken care of? You know, American culture, they have that privilege where their parents have their 401k. They got everything set in stone. They're ready. Where in our community, we're our parents' retirement plan. You know what I'm saying? Like we're the ones that are gonna, like in Ethiopian homes, you see 3 generations in one house. You take care of your parents and your grandparents. All 3 of them are there. And so we have a different burden in our culture. So we're trying to, sorry, can you guys hear me? Yeah, we have a different culture. So we want to take care of, we want to take care of our family. We want to make sure our house is in order. But what that also reminds me of is the article that set off this whole series, where the author of the article said, we're single not because we take marriage too seriously, but because we take ourselves too seriously. Mm-hmm. And so we've put more weight on ourselves, and that's why we're still single. But if we're looking at what God has designed for marriage, like in the Bible, they had nothing when they got married. In fact, like the husband, before he betrothed his wife, he like, or after, he would go a year just to work, just to have something when the marriage started. But when he would pursue her initially, he had nothing, you know what I mean? And so there is this, we build together. We got this, this is a partnership or what have you, but our culture hasn't afforded us that privilege. And we got to be sensitive culturally when we think about why we are the way we are, because we don't have certain privileges. We don't have certain things aren't afforded to us. And so I think maybe the conversation then begins to change, and we got to discover, okay, what's healthy and what do we just leave behind or what have you. I did want to ask a question in light of everything that's being said. For the men, I know we asked the women earlier this too, but for the men, do you guys feel like, I know we talked about being like fear of rejection, fear of gossip, but do you guys, in light of even what you already was sharing, do you guys feel like you have to have your house in order to be a viable option for women, where you need a degree, you need a certain amount of money in your account, you need some kind of position? I know like women, from what I've been told, if y'all don't feel this way, y'all can let us know, but women love a man that is respected, is a leader, is someone that is leading his life well, maybe not even in a community, but there's just a way he carries himself that's respectable among others. And so do you guys feel like all of that has to also be in place in order for you to even try pursuing a woman?
Initially, yes. At first, at the beginning of like my walk with Christ, I was like, I have to get it all together. I have to have the money, like you already said. I have to be spiritually, A1, got the theology down. Man, I have to serve in some capacity in church. And I had all these mentalities because of what, like, society also told us. And you need to have the bread, women love when you have money, all these things. That is not really true. So like I got into that with that mentality, and then now I'm just realizing like, like I don't really have to have it all together in order to pursue somebody. I can just go to her, I'm not saying go to her like empty-handed, like no money, like not in love with Jesus. What I'm saying is once you do have something, just let her know your intentions. So I think for me, I started I pursue now. Like, I ain't gonna lie to you. I don't have $1 million in my account. I will someday. Amen. Amen. But we all will in Jesus' name. But that shouldn't hold me back from pursuing somebody. So yeah.
I think I agree. I think honestly, man, just growing up, like I didn't talk to my parents about like this relationship was off limits until graduating college, right? Like that was the mentality that my parents instilled in me. And so at least like undergrad, like you got to have your bachelor's degree. And so that was more a restriction that my parents put on me and not I put on myself. But I don't think that, and I don't think I grew up thinking like I need to have like a really good job. I need to be super. I will say, like, I think the requirement for entering into a relationship is emotional health. It's spiritual maturity, a boldness enough to pursue well and faithfully, and not really this, I need to have every single thing together. I don't need to have a house. I don't need to have a job that pays me 6 figures. I don't need to have a nice car. Any of these material things, like that's not something that I grew up thinking. I think honestly, I think that mentality causes us to accumulate a lot of these things, right? So I get the really good job, I get the car, I get the buy the house, I am super mature, I'm leading in church, I'm doing these things, and then I begin to look for a relationship, and I'm like, well, I need somebody that matches that. And so standards that again are like way too high and unrealistic for a woman to have all of these things, because we're like, well, I put in all this work, I need somebody that's going to match me in this. And so I think removing that expectation of like I need to have all of these things before even considering pursuing someone really frees us up. And then it also enables us, and I think the Lord needs to do a work in our hearts too, but it also allows us to consider people that also don't have everything together, right? Because ultimately marriage, the Lord's going to work in marriage, and you're going to work together to heal in specific ways, to grow in specific ways, to grow in serving in different things like that. And so Yeah, I don't think I bought into that growing up. I don't think I buy into that now, but I do think that our parents kind of instill in us the belief that we need to have a bachelor's degree at least before entering into a relationship for some reason.
You know, we were also talking about this yesterday. But we were thinking, I think a lot of it, as I was digging deeper too. So I would say definitely, right? I was like, I need to have X, Y, Z before anything. And I think, especially when it comes to like money, a big thing with money, and I don't think it's more of like, right? Because if I'm making 40, she's making 40, right? We're making 80, we're cooling, right? But I don't think it's more of like, I make enough to sustain us. I think it's like, I don't have the money to provide you a wedding that you want, right? I make 40,000. We can go to like Vegas and have a chapel, right? Right. So I think a lot of the subconsciousness of like, I need money, maybe not be for like our marriage, it's for the wedding, right? I don't have money to have this wedding that you want. So I don't know if it's coming from just, I was just having like 4-day-long weddings and, spending like tens of thousands of dollars on weddings. And you're like, whoa, I can't afford that. So therefore I'm not going to be in a predicament where I have to pay for that. So I'm going to wait until I have, $100K in the bank before I pop the question or before I even pursue, right? Because I'm 26, I'm dating you for 4 years. Damn.
But does that hold you back from the pursuit, or does that hold you back from marriage once you're dating?
Well, I mean, you're asking, so if I'm 22, right, obviously I don't think I'm going to get married the next 3 years. I mean, maybe you are, I don't know. So no, right? But if you're asking me now at 26, people 26, 27, 20, 29, and they're not making bread, right? They're going to be like, well, I can't pursue you because I need money to pay for this wedding. So I'm going to wait to pursue you. Because, right, the length of your dating.
So you're talking about like a man who's single.
Yeah, I'm talking about it's because the length of a dating phase, I'm assuming will be generally in the Avishak community, right? Once you hit 26, like if you're dating more than 3 years in our culture, you're kind of like looked down on, kind of.
Finances have absolutely nothing to do with the covenant, though, and that's what like blows me. Because granted, I know it sounds like peachy keen to say, oh, I don't care about money, but like you having 6 figures in your account has nothing to do with the promise before God or like the covenant before God. So I feel like
comfort thing.
I rather genuinely, like, to the bottom of my soul, if I know, granted, I'm not ready for marriage anytime soon, but if I know I'm ready, like I meet my man and we're both dead broke, I'd rather get married in the court and then save up and then have my wedding. Just because I'm not like the whole, as big of a wedding as I want and as big of a family as I have, like I have these, I've planned my wedding since I was a kid, but like you just have to pop the man in there. But the thing is, like, I'm willing to sacrifice the wedding for a later date for the sake of just getting married. And I feel like when we think of, oh, we have to have all these things together, we then think like it's like a superficial mindset. I'm not saying you're superficial by any means, but like that has nothing to do with the relationship. Like me having financial security, yes, of course I want to have financial security. Of course I don't want my family to struggle or my kids to struggle, because I don't want my kids to have to grow up the way I did. But there's also a sense of like, I know that I'm not getting married to a person for the sake of their finances. Like as long as there's a certain goal set, like if you have a certain ambition, you're not going to be broke. Like you might be broke right now, but you're not going to be broke. Yeah. You were broke a few years ago, but you're not broke now. Why? Because you had a goal set and you were ambitious. Yeah. So like you could have gotten married 2 years ago when you were dead broke and been fine because you had the pursuit in your heart to succeed.
If you were in a relationship that was at a point where you were ready to get married. And I think it depends on that too, right? Like if you're dating and you guys are still not financially secure to be ready, but like you're ready to get married, like you want to take that step. It's all about the people. You can wait or you cannot wait. And I think another thing that needs to be like also understood, jump into this conversation, because like if we're talking from the single perspective, I think we tend to always jump to like, okay, in marriage, like can we talk about dating first, because that's the area that you're really cultivating and growing and exemplifying what your marriage is going to look like. And the dating season really just gets like so like skipped over, like even the conversation around like it's like, oh, as a husband I'm gonna be like this, as a wife I'm gonna be like this, in my marriage I want to be like this, but it's like, but what about how are you going to be in dating? And I think that that's something that has really been like heavy on my mind, just in general, because a lot of the things that we're even learning, the two of us, right, in our separate relationships, are things like that we're going to cultivate in marriage. Actually, ironically, last night we're doing a devotional, the one that I mentioned in the last podcast, and the topic last night was on love and money. And it was talking about how to navigate money in your dating season. And there's all these things that, like,
What does that mean?
oh my gosh, it's a lot. And I mean, that's a whole other conversation. We can talk about it later, but I mean, like, being transparent about like where you're spending your money. Is it on more materialistic things or entertainment, where that stems from?
That? Your boyfriend?
Get off topic.
Sorry. I have a question. Sorry.
But anyways, we're going off track of what we'll talk about that later. But what I was gonna say was, like, okay, let's say you are financially secure in your career. What if you lose that job? Like, are you going to still be happy with the person that you're with, or are you going to still be okay pursuing the woman that you're pursuing? Like, nothing is promised. And as women, like, if your man is secure in a 6-figure job, what if he loses his job? Like, there's a whole pandemic going on right now. Like, what if he does, like, lose his job? How are you going to act then? Are you still going to be supportive? Are you still going to let him lead you although he doesn't have a job? Are you still going to be, faithful in what God has for him? Like, those things really do matter. And I think that we put so much emphasis and security around finances, but then forget that, like, that's something that God gave us. That's not something that we did ourselves. So it can be taken away at any point. What is your character like regardless of the season?
Those are fleeting things. I have a question. So Fikru and Sam and Abu, do you guys feel like to even initiate dating, you need a certain sense of like financial stability? Or is that just for marriage? Like, is that reserved just for, because dates cost?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, I'll speak for myself. I think, like, this is, so for me, I want to be in a position where I could, get ready to be married. I know we don't, I really appreciate Zama's take on, the dating process is important and we need to spend some time there. But I'm also thinking about, okay, how can I position myself so that, when the time does come, I have an engagement ring, when the time does come, and this is, I'm just going to put myself out there. Like, I just have this thing in me where I want, the person I marry to work because she wants to and not because she has to. Mm-hmm. And so I don't look at it as a partnership either. I look at it as like, if she doesn't want to work, I want to position myself where she doesn't have to. And so there's this extra weight that I carry of like being financially secure because of that. You know what I'm saying? And so, where does that come? And I'm having a lot of friends that are getting married or having kids now. And, a lot of the wives want to be, stay at home. And there's like, there's conversations about that. Like, is that feasible for us? And so just looking at my friends that are having kids, I'm like, man, if that does happen, does my wife have freedom to stay home if she wants to? You know what I'm saying? And so I know, like, I shouldn't think that far when I'm thinking about the dating stage, but it's almost like, because I date with the intent of marriage, it's like, okay, have I positioned myself well so that, it's just like having your ducks in a row. I don't know where that comes from. Maybe it's culture, maybe it's self-inflicted, maybe it's past relationships, wherever that comes from. There's just this weight that I have where I want to make sure that I have my ducks in a row when I pursue someone.
And I think that's totally okay. I think it's not a bad thing at all to even be thinking of preparing for like marriage or what you're going to be like in your marriage. I think that's totally healthy. But I think also be kind on yourself and be gracious with yourself to understand that these are also conversations that you can't just have ready and like answered in your singleness. Like you these are conversations that you're going to have with your girlfriend when you're dating.
Yeah.
Are going to be, who knows, she might be in law school right now, or she might be in med school right now, and she might be studying to be a doctor, and then like, oh, I had all these plans to be, preparing for my mom, my wife to be a stay-at-home mom and all these things, but like I didn't have to waste that time on doing that when you could spend that time instead of praying and cultivating the things over her. So like, it's not bad to think those things, but also like, you don't know who she's going to be or what she's going to want to do or whatever, but these are conversations that you're gonna have with her.
Yeah.
So if you don't have the bread, are you not going to pursue her? Because it sounds like you are thinking for the long term, and that's good. But like, if you don't have the bread and that's not feasible for you, and like we're in a panty, and if you lose your job or whatever the case is, like, are you not going to pursue the woman because you don't have the quote unquote funds to, or it's not feasible at the moment?
Yeah, I think I'll pursue, but it's weighing on me. That's a factor I think about. You know what I'm saying? That's like that's a reality that plays in my mind. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I tend to have a mindset like I need to have this together before I want to set my family for success. I don't want to, like Abu said, like, man, I want to make sure my wife doesn't have to go to work. She can just enjoy it. But at the same time, Zima brought a good point. Like, I'm putting too much pressure on myself. Then I need to give grace for myself, right? So I think that's something that I have to unlearn and also always be cautious of. Like, whenever I see a potential and just like, okay, I have to get all this together, and then, but I just be like, maybe she might be a doctor, who knows, right? She might be in med school, who knows? So yeah, you're right. I definitely need to actually think about it and say, hey, you need some grace for yourself, brother. You know? Yeah.
And if not, still prepare yourself for your financial security and your stability. That will also benefit both of you later on. Don't just only base that to like be the protect. That's a lot of heavy weight on a single man to have, and it's just not fair, realistically.
And generalized.
And then again, like, nothing is promised. You can lose your job and not know what your next plan is going to be, and then what are you going to be hard on yourself because that's the direction that life took you? You know, like, it just,
Yeah, I think that's good. I think men think about providing just naturally. Like, we want to provide for our families, we want to provide for a wife, for kids, whatever, even if they're non-existent, and it's coming in 5-10 years, whatever it is. And so yeah, I don't think I think about that. I mean, if you don't have money to go on dates and stuff like that, I feel like that would be hard, you know what I mean, to pursue. I'm like, man, I want to put myself in a position to be there, you know what I mean? Because I don't know, I haven't even thought about that. But also, it depends, like, who are you pursuing? You know what I mean? Is she a woman who's willing to work with you? Is she a woman who isn't materialistic? And hopefully, if I'm pursuing her, like, she's not going to be that, you know, because I've seen characteristics in her. I've seen her pursuit of the Lord and her desire to honor Him. And I mean, if she's interested in me, then she'll work with me with me being broke. So I wouldn't say I think actively about like, would I be able to take my girl on a date or anything like that. I think about the wedding. I think about a down payment on a house. I think about like these other things that are also going to contribute to the date in which I get married. But I would definitely say, like, if I'm broke, I probably wouldn't pursue a woman.
What's up? What is broke? Like, what level is that? You know?
It's zero. Sorry, zero. Zero is broke. Like, anything.
like unemployed currently, like that.
Unemployed, no savings. You know what I mean? Like, credit card debt.
What if you're already in a relationship and you hit unemployment? What happens then?
Hopefully I was wise and like, hey, you got to do that Dave Ramsey stuff. Do I have some money saved up? Do I have some preparations? But if I'm broke and I got debt and we already in a relationship, we're not going to break up, right? It's just something that if you're in that place and point in time and in life, then you're going to have to work on continuing to pursue jobs, you know, identifying potential opportunities. You got to grind, you know, if you're willing to grind, I think you work through some of that stuff. But
I think from a woman's perspective, maybe it's not so much what you have, it's what are you willing to do about it.
Yeah.
So I think, like, even if you are dead broke and a man does feel comfortable to pursue a woman, I think we're looking for, well, what are you going to do about these things? It's how are you working towards bettering yourself? It doesn't mean being a millionaire. But that to me is not something that I'm even looking for right now. But it's, how are you
ambitious
stewarding? Exactly. How are you? Do you have an ambition? Whether it doesn't have to be career necessarily ambition, but do you have an ambition? How are you stewarding what's been given to you. And I think when you do find a godly woman who is willing to kind of run this race next to you, these pressures that you thought when you were single don't seem as weighty anymore, because you're starting to realize, you're like, wow, okay, like maybe my expectations weren't exactly, maybe they were a little bit too high in terms for myself. And yeah, but I'm speaking for me here when I say, like, it's not so much, are you broke? Do you have a master's? Do you have all these things? What are you doing about it?
This like goes into, and you know, we got to wrap up here pretty soon here, but you know, there's this conversation around, you know, are you cool with dating a guy with potential versus a guy who's already there? Do you want to build with your man, or do you want to have the man already there? And I'm also interested to, you know, maybe for you listeners, let us know what you guys think as well. But it sounds like from, you know, Mikli, Hanu, and Zama, you guys are cool with the guy having vision and a work ethic and a plan or what have you. But I don't know if that's, you know, I don't know if, I'll speak for myself as a man, I don't know if I feel like all women think that way. You know, I feel like sometimes, like, you know, most, and maybe I'm even wrong in this too, but maybe it's like what culture has portrayed, but it's almost like the man has to have his ducks in a row in order to be a viable option for someone.
Trash, like, then what? You know, so I think we have to just, as women, am I looking for your potential in your money or whatever, or in your character? That's where I think there might be error. I'm like, let's hold back on that. If your patterns at the moment are telling me that your character is there, your work ethic, your discipline, your integrity, everything else will follow, God willing, right? Like, we believe that, and I don't think that's naive. I think it's naive when we think potential over pattern when it's in superficial things, or when the guy's not even giving you anything to base that potential off of in the moment.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to like glamorize or what, or put this like picture fairy tale version of like we're great women who, like, it's tough, right? Like, we can't sit here and say that if we were dating a guy and he lost his job or whatever, and finances started to become an issue, we're going to be like, it's fine, we're good. Like, no, it's going to be tough. Realistically, it's going to be hard. It's going, but I think that's the point of us being Christians and godly dating. Like, there is a point behind us. Like that's when trust in God comes in. That's when it shows, like, where is his stewardness? That's when where's the prayer warrior in her life? Like, these things start to come into fruition, and that's why it's important. It's not that we you know, are, you know, perfect or whatever and thinking these ways. It's just where it shows to the woman and it shows to the man where their relationship with God is, and where their heart is, and how much God has really, like, worked in their heart. It's a heart thing more than it is like a personality thing. Like, was this our mindset a couple of years ago? Probably not, right? But like, it's just on how God has worked through us and what we've seen, and yeah.
It takes a certain level of security, I think. Like, I don't know if you guys watch Insecure. I don't even know if that's appropriate to discuss, but, you know, like, when Lawrence lost his job, and like he had such a lack of security, and like it displayed in every part of their relationship. And so, like, that if a man has a certain level of security in his heart, like, he's secure in who he is, him losing his job isn't gonna, like, if your whole life and your whole security and all you are is just based on how much money you make and like your status, then you're in flaw. Like, your root is flawed.
And it scares me as the woman to know that, like, that's where your confidence, and that's where your,
like, if your confidence is in your money, then like you really lack confidence.
And it's like, how are you going to lead me if, like, let's say something else goes wrong in our relationship? Like, how am I going to trust that you're going to lead me towards our God and towards Christ if this one thing just shook your world like this? You know, it means a lot.
Yeah. So I think it's, yes, financial stability is important, but like, it's not everything. And like, I know that sounds like such a blanket statement, and like, I can't speak for all women, because like, of course I would want someone who's financially stable, but I also know I'm going to be financially stable for myself. So like, I don't necessarily need that, but for themselves, yes, I would hope a man wants to be financially stable for his kids and like to be able to lead in that way too. But there's also has to be a level of understanding that, like, in what other ways are you a leader if you're not currently the finance? Like, if I'm making more than my husband, which is like, it might be what it is. What other ways are you leading? And like, children, like, you know, like, are you a father figure in the household? Those things are more important than financials. And I feel like we as a society, because I grew up for a while, my mom was making more than my dad. My dad wasn't working for a little bit. My mom was a single mom for a while. So like, I know what it looks like for a woman to really like to be the head of the household, which is, I'm not saying is a good thing, and I'm not saying that's what it should be, but like there's more aspects to it that weigh heavier than financial stability. And I feel like that's such a superficial blanket that we just like emphasize in our society or in our culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, so much to be said there. I mean, as you guys were speaking, I had questions firing in my head. But maybe we'll do a part 2 of this if need to be. But just wrapping things up, I know we talked about guys and girls being friends. We talked about who should pursue who. If I'm not mistaken, please remind me or refresh my memory if I forget. But it sounds like, you know, women, you know, it's okay to, you know, let your intentions be known, but there's this desire for godly men to pursue, you know, and then men have a hard time doing that because they don't want to be rejected. Men have a hard time doing that because of gossip. And then maybe men have a hard time doing that because of where they're at financially or where they're at in life. They want to have certain things figured out before they make that first step. Though, I'm just going to overview big picture. Those are some of the things we tackled. And I bring that up because in conclusion, does anybody, and I want to give the floor for everyone to want to share a final thought or an encouragement or a challenge, or maybe you want to clarify something before we wrap this thing up.
Yeah, I want to challenge the men. Man, shoot your shot, bro. So when I did mine, I took a huge risk, right? So actually on paper, right, I was not even close to what like my girlfriend wanted, right? But I still shot my shot anyway, and I bagged it. You know what I mean? So I would just say shoot your shot, and don't be afraid of rejection. Your worries of gossip and how you look are valid, but I say don't let that stop you. From.
And I guess my challenge to women would be the next time a guy is pursuing you, keep it to yourself and see where that goes. And if it doesn't go anywhere, still keep it to yourself. Just practice that. And also ask yourself, why do I need to tell these people? Like try to, it's because that's my best friend. Okay. But why does she have to know? Oh, because I tell her everything. Like trace it down to like the point, the foundational reason. DM me if you find, like, I challenge you to DM me if you find a reason that it's okay to tell people about a guy pursuing you or whatever. But I promise you it'll always come down to a superficial or gossipy reason. And I will take the debate and I will take the hate mail for that one. So yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
Sorry.
Go ahead. You should?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think what Yordi said was good. I think what both of you guys said was good, honestly. But guys, man, don't wait until you get the vibe back type stuff. You know, you don't gotta wait, bro. Just go ahead, go for it. If you really feeling somebody, bro, you gotta be like, what do you think? We're not playing tennis, you know what I mean? We don't have to get the back and forth. Just shoot your shot. Also, I think what Zema was saying, like, use wisdom and who are you shooting your shot to? You know what I mean? Like, is it somebody that isn't spiritually mature enough to honor you in keeping it between you two, you know? I think we need to identify, like, what do I value and what am I looking for in a relationship? And hopefully it would be someone that has enough wisdom to be discreet with that interaction. So guys, be bold and be wise in who you're choosing to pursue too.
Yeah, Sam, shoot your shot at whoever's in your DMs. But I really want to say, like, we're talking about dating, we're talking about marriage, but like also emphasizing that it's okay to be single and like it's okay to be in a season of working on yourself. And like Zema brought up in the last podcast episode, but like if you're saying that you're working on yourself, and that's something that really convicted me, like if you're saying you're going to work on yourself, then work on yourself. Like don't let your season of singleness be in vain, because like this might be the only time that you're, you know, like once you're married, like it's it. So like this might be the only time in your life that you really have to work on yourself as an individual. And like I was super convicted by it, because if I'm saying that I'm single for a reason, I'm single to work on like my past and my traumas and my relationship with God and being who God calls. That is what you're saying it is, and like actually cultivate that.
Yeah.
So like, yes, all humans talk about in the church is marriage and relationships, which is annoying, but like it's okay to be single, and like cultivate yourself in that singleness, and like let God lead you in that singleness, and like and truly like seek therapy, seek counsel. Like Zama drove it at home when she kept saying like seek your wise counsel in your life, whether that's like your pastor, your mentors, your disciplers, whoever that is, and like be intentional about that. And so that was a challenge that I got from the last podcast, and that's something that like it reiterated in my head. And I feel like really God spoke through her when she said that. And so for everyone who's listening, like it's okay to be single, but it's also like use that singleness to your advantage and like to serve God, because this is the most this is the best time to serve God is in your singleness.
Yeah, absolutely. And even if you're saying like, oh, I'm not ready, so I don't really need to work on myself, it's gonna happen naturally. Like, you know, like you just don't know what's gonna happen. So why not work on?
There's always something to work on.
There's always something to work on. Yeah. So that was good. Thank you, Anna.
Write a book.
Probably not.
Yeah, I guess something that I'll say really quick. One of my favorite quotes on relationships, and I probably told you guys this, but it's about self-awareness, and it says you bring your redeemed self-aware self into the relationship, otherwise you become what you want because you want the person, you become what the other person wants because you want the person. And so with that said, be self-aware, study your emotional health, learn yourself, know what you think about yourself, learn your flaws, your weaknesses, your traumas, your past, deal with it. Don't think you're going to finish dealing with it. That's a lifelong process. But deal with it, intentionally deal with it, so that when someone else comes along beside you, you can deal with it together in a proactive way. You're aware of what needs to be worked on, and it also humbles you. So it helps to humble yourself in your pursuit of a spouse or another person. Yeah, that's all I have to say.
Yeah. Be realistic.
Yeah. Well, from your boy Sam, all I have to say to my man is shoot your shot. And for my sisters, it's okay. We're here to let, you know, to give a hint, to let your intentions be known. It's okay. It's okay. So my men, be a Kobe, be a Stephen Curry. If you want to be like LeBron, go ahead and dunk. Go for it. That's all I got to say.
Rejected.
Yeah, be ready to get rejected too. That's fine. That's completely fine.
Yeah. So just to, man, I love what everybody had to say. And one of the reasons why we actually, when me and Sam wanted to start we had no idea it would turn into 3 parts or it would get the response that it did. But the initial heart behind why we even put out that episode is we wanted to challenge single people for being single for no reason. There's nothing wrong with being single. In fact, shameless plug, at Perizim, we just spent 7 weeks talking about why singleness is glorious and God's heart and intent and vision for singleness. But I think if we were to be real, sometimes we're single for reasons God doesn't have us being single for. And so we just want to encourage, and I hope this helped foster conversations even offline. And I'm very appreciative of the conversations I've had from y'all who reached out. But yeah, man, like let's not let certain things hold us back from pursuing a godly romantic relationship. We don't need to, wait till we're 35 or 40 to like say the I do's. And, there's, my challenge would be for me and even our listeners is, do the deep work. I think Zama talked about like, do the deep work behind why their gossip needs to take place. But I would also encourage, do the deep work behind why it is that you are single. And if it's really because you're trying to honor God in your singleness, or because you're letting certain things hold you back. And our hope and intent in these last 3 episodes, and even the one we did with Loza and Asias, was to unpack maybe some of these reasonings that aren't so bright and expose them for what they are. And I hope that, I know we can't tackle everything, and even the things that we did bring up, we can't go as deep as we could, but I hope this encourages you guys to, I want to see more relationships happen. I want to see more marriages happen. I want to see people take full advantage of this dating world. Like, it's okay to date. It's okay to get to know someone. You're not ungodly for doing that. You're not in sin for trying to get to know someone, to be married to them. And I just want to, I don't know, for me, I don't know if you guys feel this way too, but for some reason, I feel like in the Abisha Christian community, there's this stigma around dating. And what it looks like to really pursue someone. And so hopefully these episodes encouraged you to think through maybe why you're still single, and if the singleness is really rooted in biblical principles. And if not, yeah, talk with your friends, talk with your pastors, talk with your disciplers, talk to your mentors. Feel free to reach out to any one of us. We'll probably have everybody's handle down below. Feel free to DM. But yeah, hope this blessed y'all. Hope this encouraged y'all. Praying for y'all. We love you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for every single one of you guys who listen, like, subscribe, share it. It means the world. We don't take that lightly. I find it fascinating that people will actually listen, you know, and so we don't take this lightly. And thank you for trusting us to engage in this conversation. Thank you to Fikru, Hanu Miklit, Yordi, Zema, Sam for joining us on part 1, part 2, and part 3. Y'all made this series fun to record, fun to put out, fun to have conversations. And so we appreciate your wisdom, your perspectives. Thank you for being open and vulnerable with even where you guys are at, where you guys have been, and what the Lord is doing in your heart and where he's leading you guys. It's not always easy to share that with the internet, but thank you guys for leading in that way. We love y'all. Until next time, family, peace and grace.